Hi, everyone. Welcome to Money Talks, aligning before bills are due. I'm really glad you're here today. If tuition bills are coming up and you're still piecing together the plan, you are not behind. You're being proactive by showing up today. In the next 30 minutes, we'll cover four things: how costs come together, what options families use when aid doesn't cover everything, where private student loans and cosigners fit, and what cosigning really means. Near the end, I'll hit the questions families ask and also open up for some Q&A. Uh, this stuff can feel a little bit overwhelming because there are lots of moving pieces, right? And the stakes feel high, especially if this is new to you and your family. Our goal here today is to help break down so you can walk away feeling the information you need confidently to be able to plan the next steps. Before we jump in, I would love to quickly introduce myself. My name is Kumba McGill. I'm a relationship manager here at Ascent Funding. I spent the last several years helping students and families navigate what can feel like a maze, from loan options to forms to deadlines and trade-offs. This conversation matters because decisions now affect monthly budgets and financial health later. And it's easier to plan for the future when families are aligned. I'm not here to tell you what you should do. The goal is to help you understand what things mean so you can choose what fits best for you and your family. So, my goal is simple: to help you make informed decisions that set you up for success and not stress. Today is part of a series of conversations that we'll be leading, but this session stands alone on its own. Quick context, today's session is part of a larger conversation, as I just said. We're doing for students and families that prep them for college this fall. If you want a deeper foundation on how to read cost and aid, the April Paying for College session may be particularly what you need. And we'll keep the conversation going, and we're offering lots of sessions over the summer. By attending today, we'll make sure to keep you informed on when the next series of sessions are coming from June all the way through August. All right, so let's go ahead and just start with big picture. How families usually put together the funding puzzle. It's something that's going to be really, really important as you plan out what your next steps look like. I want to slow down on the slide just for a second because this is where a lot of stress quietly starts with families, right? Many families look at their financial aid offer and assume that it'll be the final answer to the question, how do we pay for college? And that's often not the case, right? But in reality, a lot of families answer this part of the question over the next couple of minutes. We're happy to break down how college funding actually comes together for most families. First, it's grants and scholarships. They're usually the first layer in the offer letters, right? That money isn't directly out of your pocket, and that's money that you don't have to pay back. And it's where families naturally focus first. Then, depending on your specific financial situation, you're likely looking at either federal student loans and of cash or savings. If you qualify for federal student loans, those amounts show up clearly on your offer letter. Then there's different types of loans that you may see, but are all loans that are represented separately, and you have to pay back. They accrue interest, and you have to pay those back over time. Some families have savings or cash they can leverage to pay tuition or to cover other costs like housing, books, and fees. And even after all scholarships and grants and federal student loans and savings, some families still see a remaining gap. That gap doesn't mean you've missed something. It just means that the offer letter and savings may not be the full amount that you initially planned for. This is also why comparing aid offers can be misleading. Two students can attend similar schools and still have very different gaps based on your family's income, their savings, and their support while they're in school. The key takeaway here is that the offer letter starts with a conversation. It doesn't finish it. So you can realize a gap is normal. The next step, more practical question becomes what options do families typically use to cover that gap if one does exist? Even if your aid and savings doesn't cover everything, you still have some options, right? Families usually cover remaining costs using a combination of four approaches. Some families continue looking for what they call free money, right? Essentially, that's money that they don't have to pay back, as I said earlier. These are outside scholarships or additional school-based aid that may not have been part of the initial offer letter. You can also look at outside scholarships through your parents' work, right? The company that they work for, or through scholarship search sites. You can also look to your Department of Study of your specific program at the school to see if they offer anything you can apply for. Some of us more money, some have more money than you actually initially thought, excuse me. Maybe they have some additional savings, or maybe there's some help from your family. So maybe essentially you've saved money over time, and that can be helpful to put towards paying for school. It's not always the most likely or easiest option, but it's a trade-off choice families can make. It's important to note that if you're considering using extra savings or cash, to be mindful how much you have holding back in your emergency fund, right? Some use money that they've earned over time, family income, a student's earnings. If you don't have the cash to pay it all up front, you have ongoing income you can use to make payments. This might be an option to explore. Often through payment plans offered by the school is another option to be able to pay for school, right? So let's go ahead and pause there for 1 second, because payment plans are something many families overlook when they are looking at ways to pay for schools. They can make larger costs feel more manageable if you do a month to month. If this is an option uh, that interests your particular family, then it's important to talk to the school to set up payment plan options. You can't just make payments on the balance over time. You need to set up a specific payment plan agreement with the school. And then there's one other option that a lot of families typically don't really know about until they are deep in the payment planning option, which is private student loans, right? I want to make things a little bit clear right now. We're not saying that every family should use private student loans. The goal of sharing this information is simply to name all the tools that families commonly use, so you're making decisions with the full picture in mind. There's no single correct combination. What matters is whether the plan feels manageable and sustainable for your family. With that context, let's kind of talk through more specifics about these options. Let's dive into what a private student loan actually is and how it fits into this picture. A private student loan is usually part of the conversation after you've looked at scholarship, grants, federal loans, savings, and what you can realistically pay up front and month to month, right? So essentially a payment plan. It's best to think of it as a tool, not a solution on its own. Your borrower only borrow what you need to cover a specific gap, and you pay it back over time. There are three things that often surprises families when it comes to uh, uh, they encountering private student loans. The first, they're not part of the school's financial aid offer. You won't see them listed in the package from the college, which is why they might feel new, confusing, or unfamiliar. Second, they differ specifically from federal aid. Access to private lending may be based on credit, financial profile, not just enrollment. Lenders look at income, credit history, and over time, your overall financial strength for many of their loan products. And third, that's why a cosigner often comes into the picture. Many students are still building credit or don't yet have steady income, so families can step in to help bridge the gap. Once private loans enter the picture, the next big question that families ask is, what does it actually mean to cosign? When you co-sign, you're not just lending your name. You're agreeing to be an equal borrower on the loan. That means the responsibility is shared. Your credit and your student's credit are both tied to the loan from the beginning. Most families approach this as a partnership. The student is working towards independence, while the family helps make college possible early on. That usually includes conversations about who's making payments now, how these payments are tracked, and what long-term plans look like. You also hear about something called cosigner release. Not every uh, not every loan has it, but it's often one option lenders offer that allows the cosigner to step away later after consistent on-time payments. So I would actually like to repeat that again, right? You'll hear about something called cosigner release. Not every lender has this, but it's one option lenders offer that allows the cosigner to step away later after consistent on-time payments. Families tend to feel most confident when they talk this through before they apply, not after. That's exactly what this session is meant to support. So, what do families what do families choose to co-sign in the first place? And let's talk about what's driving that decision. For many students, qualifying on their own just isn't realistic yet. They may be early in their credit journey or they're not earning enough income. Co-signing can help students get approved. Just as importantly, it often improves the loan terms. That can mean lower interest rates or more manageable repayment options over time, which affects the total cost of borrowing. For most families, this decision isn't about taking on debt lightly. It's about making borrowing more manageable and avoiding bigger financial strain later. And it's very common. About 90% of private student loans involves a cosigner. So if this is part of your conversation, you're definitely not alone. With that said, it's important to talk honestly about what co-signing actually commits you to before you go ahead and do it. So I just want to kind of take a moment here before we talk about what responsibilities come with co-signing, right? Because this slide is really the foundation of the decision to co-sign or not. When you see the phrase equal legal responsibility, that's literal, right? From the lender's perspective, there's no primary or secondary borrower. There's a shared credit impact when you co-sign. That means payment doesn't just affect the student's future credit. A late payment shows up on both credit reports at the same time, even if the student is the one making payments. Co-signers are often surprised to learn that co-signing shows up on their credit report, even if a co-signer never plans to touch the loan. It still counts as part of their credit profile. While they're co-signed, which can they're co-signed, which can matter if they're refinancing a mortgage, buying a car, or opening other forms of credit. And finally, if a payment stops, lenders can pursue either the borrower or the co-signer for a resolution. The reason we're being really clear on this is that the goal is not to scare you or to push you away from borrowing. It's to clear up any types of misunderstandings that may arise later. As long as you're clear about what you're walking into, it can help you open the door for better family conversations. Knowing more about the responsibilities, the next natural question is, how do families set up so it doesn't become stressful? This slide is a simple framework you can use as a family to guide your conversation. Start by talking openly about expectations, right? Concerns, and the full loan amount before anyone applies. Once a loan exists, the conversation completely changes. So you want to be upfront. Once the big stuff is on the table, work on getting specifics. If you're navigating things like out-of-pocket cost or loan payments while in school, you'll want to talk about who is paying while the student is in school. Does anything change during the summer? What happens if income changes? What about after school? Who will be making payments longer term? Is there a breakdown of costs, meaning that the student will pay some and a cosigner will pay some as well? Finally, it's nice to talk about direction. It doesn't have to be a perfect forecast, but putting a plan in place can help you alleviate concerns and drive for some more clarity, right? Even saying something like after graduation, the student takes over within X amount of months creates shared expectations. It also helps you to set expectations for what to do if the students can't make payments. How should they share that info with the cosigner so they can build a plan for payment and credit preservation together? Families who skip the planning step usually don't have problems because the loan is bad. They have problems because roles were not ever defined from the onset. Once these expectations are clear, there are a few practical ways to protect themselves, right? I know this sounds a lot. I know this is a lot of information, but there's a few practical, I would say, practices for borrowers that they can leverage to maintain a peace of mind. Think about setting up auto payments. It's one of the simplest protections. It reduces missed payments due to timing errors, and some lenders, like Ascent, even offer interest rate discounts for enrolling in auto payments. Review statements regularly. Most private loans have portals and mobile apps that make management super easy. You can log in and check your balance and upcoming payments anytime. You can often even make auto pay changes in the portal or app if you need to adjust anything. Checking in regularly helps you avoid surprises. Keep loan documents organized. Know where the loan lives, who services it, and how to access the amount and the account. That way, you're not scrambling if something changes or if you need to contact someone. Ask about cosigner release early. This isn't something to figure out years later. You want to know upfront. Does this loan allow it? And does the student need to do, what does the student need to do to qualify for that specific cosigner release? This can be a part of your plan for the student to take over loan payments and responsibility. These habits are what turn borrowing and co-signing into something really manageable. And it's also important to say this clearly. Co-signing is not the only way families can contribute. So, private student loans and co-signing isn't right for all families, and that's totally okay. Federal loans don't require a co-signer and come with built-in protections. Many families start with federal student loans deliberately because of those built-in protections. Also, keep in mind that aid doesn't stop after freshman year. Scholarships, department grants, and other assistance can reduce the need to borrow later. Co-signers aren't always necessary later or even now. Students can qualify on their own if they have a credit history or income. Ascent particularly offers loans to students with no or low credit as well. These loans are typically only available to upperclassmen, juniors and seniors, and above. No matter which option you're considering, the next steps are the same for everyone. As we start to wrap up, let's start to distill and simplify some things, right? The first step is just making sure you clearly understand your financial aid offer. Knowing what's already been covered gives you a solid starting point. Next is confirming whether if there's truly a gap. A lot of stress comes from assuming there's more to solve than there actually is. So taking a moment to do the math carefully can be really helpful for you down the line. Look at what you have, what you can pay up front or through payment plans, then see what's really left over. And then before any decisions is made, have a conversation as a family. Talk through comfort level, roles, and expectations up front. so you can make everything feel more manageable. You don't need to decide everything today. Even getting clearer on one of these steps puts you in a better position than when you just initially decide to start. Before we open it up for questions, let's touch base on a few things families often ask around this point. Okay, so here are here are here are a few questions we hear most often every time we have this conversation, right? These tend to come up right when families start putting the pieces together. One of the most common is whether you have to take the full amount of a loan that's offered. You don't. You always have the option to take less and not take it at all. Another question we hear is about timing. Whether private loans should be used right away, many families choose to look at federal options first and then only add private loans if there's still a gap. We also hear a lot of concerns around risk. What usually makes loans feel risky isn't the loan itself, right? It's not fully understanding the terms or expectations going in. And finally, cosigner release comes up often. When it's available, it's a way for the cosigner to step away later after a period of consistent on-time payments. If any of these questions sounds familiar, you're very much in the norm when it comes to other families that have questions and concerns when it comes to these types of questions. So before we move into the Q&A, I want to close with a few reminders for you to take away from this session. So let's go ahead and kind of like zoom out for a moment. Our hope today was to make you feel a little bit clearer when it comes to whether you decide to co-sign, explore another option, or take more time. What matters most is that the decision fits your family. This is not a one-size-fits-all model, right? This checklist is here as a takeaway to help you feel confident that you thought through the most important pieces. It reflects what we've talked about today, understanding the responsibility, having open conversations when it comes to cosigner and what all that means, and making a plan before decisions are made. And one important upside I want to leave you with is when loans are well managed, co-signing can actually help students build credit early, then support them later on when they're renting apartments, buying cars, or qualifying for future loans on their own. So while co-signing starts as a family decision, it can have long-term benefits for the student when it's approached thoughtfully. If you like the checklist, you can scan the QR code. Just take a couple of seconds to do that and keep it handy as you continue these conversations. I've also talked today about ways to find additional scholarship. Ascent runs scholarships year round. You can apply for $1,000 Play, Pay, and Succeed scholarship monthly for a chance to win. We also offer larger scholarship amounts as well. Check out the page and bookmark it. All of your scholarships are note essay based. I know students do not like to write essays, so we've taken out that option and made it just pretty easy. You go online, you fill in the information, and then every month we'll identify a winner. So I want you to take a moment to go ahead and download the checklist. If you have your phone, just scan that. And then also, if you're looking for scholarship opportunities to be able to apply for a Sense Play and Pay and Succeed scholarship, you can go ahead and scan the QR code to your right. So I'll let you take about 10 seconds to do that. And then with that, I'll be happy to take any questions that y'all may have. If you have a question, you can go ahead and put it in the chat or the Q&A feature. Okay. Can we apply for a loan for the full amount needed, but only use partial as we go along? You can apply for a loan and not use the whole amount. But once a loan is certified, you won't be able to like once it's certified and the schools disperse it, and that period runs out, you're gonna have to, you would have to submit a new application. But if it's within the disbursement period, you can adjust that loan. But let's say if I apply for $100,000 and I take initially take out 30 and I want to adjust it to 40, you can do that within that period of time. Do you have another question? Let's see what other questions are popping up. Okay. Yes. Co-signer release. Yeah, so specifically has uh co-signer release after the student has made consistent on-time payments for 12 months. You can apply to get your co-signer release. We're one of very few lenders that have that co-signer release option, which is makes it more appealing for families who may not necessarily want to be on the hook for the life of the loan. Um, so after 12 months of consistent payments, the student can apply uh, uh, for their cosigner to be released from the loan. Okay. Yep. We offer monthly scholarship, no essay monthly scholarship every month. Okay. I don't see any other questions. So with that being said, thank you all so much for attending the session today.